Seven, six, five, four, three, two, one.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Hello everybody, I'm your host Ashton, and welcome to The Sound of Fear, the place where we break down the sounds that make your blood run cold. Today we're going to break down the musical masterpiece that is George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. If you've ever done any research into Dawn of the Dead, you might know that there are 3 separate releases of the film. For this video, we're going to be covering the Italian release, just so there's no confusion. The movie starts and we introduce to our first song, L'Alba dei Morti Viventi. This killer crossover came to fruition through George Romero's good friend Dario Argento, who worked many times with the members of Goblin on movies such as Suspiria and Tenebrae. Our main girl, Francine, finds herself in a news station that's in complete chaos over the zombie outbreak. Her boyfriend Steven the Flyboy shows up and lets Fran in on his plan to steal the news helicopter and escape. We then cut to an apartment building surrounded by the National Guard. The people on the inside refuse to leave and give up their dead. We meet Roger, a National Guardsman who is stationed waiting to take out anyone leaving the building who's armed. Blatant racism aside, this goes about as you'd expect. This starts the shootout between the National Guard and the people inside the apartment building, with most of them getting killed. The gore and practical effects of this movie were all done by horror legend Tom Savini. Dawn of the Dead was Savini's first major movie as the practical effects director. We quickly get our second track titled Zombie. This song plays throughout the scene as the National Guard enters the apartment complex. A soldier named Wooly goes crazy and starts shooting everyone in sight. Roger attempts to stop Wooly, but Wooly is quickly shot in the back by another masked soldier. Roger and 2 other soldiers go into a room filled with zombies. A young soldier can't bring himself to shoot a one-legged zombie. Before the other 2 can help him, a zombie comes out of the bathroom with a real bad hair day. The other guy finally brings himself to kill the one-legged zombie, but not long after turns the revolver on himself. After what he just saw, Roger retreats to some sort of laundry room. I don't know. I can't tell. He quickly realizes he's not alone and sees the masked man that shot Wooly. Turns out this is Peter, the last of our main cast. Roger mentions his friend Steven and his helicopter, and goes on to ask Peter if it's wrong to run away at a time like this. Their bonding time is quickly cut short when a one-legged preacher walks into the room, bringing with him the drowning synths and heavy drums of L'Alba dei Morti Viventi. We are then brought back out to the hallway where a large group of soldiers group around a boarded-off door. Upon breaking down the door, we are introduced to our next song, if you will, Zombie, the Living Dead's Voices. This version of the previous title, Zombie, is made up of the dissonant cries of the undead. Spooky. As chaos breaks out upstairs, we cut back down to the basement to see Roger and Peter walking into a mass grave of apartment dwellers, as all good apartment buildings should have. As we are shown the carnage of the zombies eating one another, the alternate take of L'Alba dei Morti Viventi sets the scene. We cut to later in the night to see Steven and Fran landing the helicopter at the meetup point. Steven heads inside a nearby building to look for Roger and finds a chewed up radio operator. Talk about dead on the air, am I right? Roger and Peter show up and, oh my god, Roger is so short. Anyways, we finally have our gang together, and they set off into the night sky. After flying through the night, Steven says that they're running out of gas and need to stop somewhere soon. This is when we get these really cool flyover shots of military convoys and citizens clearing the land of the undead. Romero always showed early on that the local populace would come together with the military to do what they could to fight back the hordes of undead. The jolly nature and foolish hijinks of these volunteers is paired with our next track, Tirasegno, meaning dartboard in Italian. We see these folks having a good old-fashioned barbecue at the entertainment being shooting zombies. The gang finally lands at a refueling station before splitting up to search for clues. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist it. Steven and Fran go to check out the hangars, and as they do, our next track creeps its way into our ears. I Margini della Foglia, alternate take 1. This doesn't last long, however, because Steven and Fran are quickly spooked, running outside straight into a couple of zombies. Starting back into the track, Zombie. After Steven's wrestling match with the business zombie, he goes to help Fran by throwing her to the ground and doing interpretive dance with another zombie? I really don't understand his thought process here. We cut back to Peter in a nearby house with the track Zombie once again building. Something's banging on the door and outrun 2 zombie children. Peter throws them across the room and shoots them a couple dozen times, which honestly didn't feel necessary to me. Who knows? Maybe he just doesn't like kids. Also, I wanted to point out this thing that kind of looks like a hand just popping into screen when the kids run out. Almost as if like a crew member stuck their arm in. Peter quickly turns around to see this zombie lumbering towards him, who just so happens to be the cover art zombie on the poster. He doesn't last long, however, as Steven appears behind him taking a shot that just barely misses Peter. Roger then steps in to give the killing blow. The next morning arrives, and as they are flying, we finally get a shot of the beloved Monroeville Mall. The myth goes that Romero was friends with the owners of the mall in real life, and while on a tour of the place after hours, the owners said someone could survive the apocalypse in here, prompting Romero to think, what about a zombie apocalypse? As the gang decides whether or not they want to land, another alternate take of I Margini della Foglia begins to play. The seemingly random and discordant notes accompany them as they land in an unknown and hostile place. Peter and Roger find that the mall is full of zombies, but decide on a plan to break into a department store for supplies. Fran asks the age-old question of, what are all the zombies doing in the mall anyway? Steven responds, as the genius he is, saying, it's an instinct to cling to their previous lives. Or something like that. Roger finds a spot to break in, a storage area of sorts, full of food and water, as well as cut off from the rest of the mall. After building a quick barricade, they decide to take a nap and refine their plan. Roger and Peter head downstairs, leaving Fran and Steven because who wants him to come with, right? As they descend the stairs, an alternate take of I Margini della Foglia begins to play again. Dario Argento is really showing what his favorite song of the soundtrack was. Roger and Peter meander their way through these back rooms until they find the keys to the mall. Those things jangling, you could hear them coming from a mile away. They decide to turn on the power to the mall, as well as starting the mall music back up, which plays one of the very few songs not made by Goblin in this release. Vado, vedo e sparo, meaning I go, I see, and I shoot. Plays as we see the many weird characters that inhabit the mall as zombies. There's a scene where a zombie is stealing pennies from a wishing well, and that makes me wonder if that's one of those instincts kept from when he was human. If so, is this guy the first zombie bum? Roger and Peter make it into the main part of the mall and engage with a small horde of infected, with the track Zombie accompanying their entrance. The two kill a few zombies as they fight their way to the hardware store. Meanwhile, Steven hears the commotion and goes downstairs to help. I bet this will go exactly as planned. This zombie goes for a tumble right through the gate of the store, and while Roger gets him out of the way, another overly grabby zombie steals his gun. Maybe in his life, this guy was part of the ATF? Roger and Peter start ransacking the store like it's Black Friday. They radiate the joy that can only come from stealing from large corporations. Their shopping spree is backed by our next new track, La Casia, meaning the hunt. Roger and Peter being the hunters, with overpriced electronics being the prey. On the other side of the mall, Steven finds a gun and a map of the mall in a back room. He also happens to look away at the perfect time to miss this zombie walk right past him. I Margini della Follia begins to play as Steven is being hunted by the zombie. The quick moving shots, the dark and jagged corners of the room, all combine with the score to make a disorientating and overwhelming feeling. Steven gets jump scared by a security guard in red face paint and shoots a hole right through his head. Peter and Roger, accompanied by the track Zombie, hear the commotion and correctly assume it's their flyboy in danger and rush over to help him. Roger shoots a couple of zombies and they meet up in the entrance to the back rooms of the mall. Peter does an awesome WWE move on this ragdoll zombie before telling Steven not to go back upstairs as he'll lead them to Fran. A fun fact about this scene, the advertisement photos on the photo booth are actually of actors in full zombie makeup. They took their photos in the booth and replaced the real ones. The three of them make it back into the department store, and Roger is then grabbed by a zombie who was pretending to be a mannequin and had been there the entire time, even when they were there earlier. Roger, somehow not getting bit here, pulls a screwdriver off the zombie and pokes him in the ear. Ew, red paint blood. They reenact their plan to lure the zombies to the lower level of the store and see the three of them happy together for the first time, all while La Casia plays. The gang can't risk being followed, so Steven, with his newfound knowledge, tells the others about some heating ducts that run above the stores. Meanwhile, upstairs, we see Fran waiting patiently for her hubby to return home, when a bang comes from the door. Fran quickly sees a zombie lumbering up the stairs. This zombie, widely known as the Hare Krishna zombie, for some reason became one of the most widely remembered moments from the Romero zombie films. Whether it be because of his standout look, or his connection to the semi-cult movement of the same name, he became a symbol of the franchise. The Hare Krishna zombie breaks into their safe room, accompanied by, yet again, I Margini della Follia. The quick-thinking Fran grabs a flare to scare away the zombie, showing their probable fear of fire. While this is happening, Peter quietly grabs the supplies they left earlier in the wheelbarrow so as to not draw any more attention to the path up to the safe house. We are thrown back into Fran's fight for life with the Hare Krishna zombie as the track Zombie begins to blare in our ears yet again. The guys hear the commotion upstairs and come running. Unable to shoot because the zombies downstairs will hear them, Roger and Steven have to deal with the zombie with their fists. Sleepy time. With Fran safe and the body disposed of, the gang start to furnish their new apartment and have some well-deserved cheese and crackers. After Fran retires to her room for the night, Steven reveals to the others that she's pregnant. The next morning, Fran lets the guys know that she wants to be treated as an equal. She doesn't want to be dead weight, and she wants to help make the plans. You tell them, girl. They come to the agreement that she can start going out with them when she learns how to shoot. Fran also wants to learn how to fly the helicopter just in case Steven goes and kicks the bucket someday. The three guys leave the mall in order to collect semis that they plan to use to block the outside doors of the mall so no one can get in, dead or otherwise. Roger starts losing it and getting way too trigger happy. While this is happening, we can see that one of the zombies learned how to drive. Huh, weird. We cut to a truck door being opened as the track Zombie starts building once again. Huh, I wonder if that means there are zombies nearby. Yep, here they come. With Roger being overconfident and having an invincible mindset, he doesn't notice these zombies sneaking up on him. Before he can do anything, Roger is surrounded. Peter comes to help by flattening this zombie with his truck and shooting the other one off Roger. A zombie with a tire iron breaks the window behind Roger before he takes it out himself. It's very apparent now that Roger is losing it, and it's scaring Peter.
You all right? Perfect, baby. Perfect.
Upon returning to the mall, Roger sets his truck in place. When he tries to get out into Peter's truck, he's interrupted by a horde of advancing dead. Instead of just getting into the truck like he should, he risks all their lives just to shoot a couple of zombies. Roger is just about to be bit when Fran saves his life from the roof. Roger freaks out over losing his bag. Upon hearing this, Peter blows up on him, which seems to bring Roger back to reality. Oops, there goes gravity. They head back for Roger's bag, only for him to drop it in between the trucks. He jumps down to get it, but there's too many zombies and gets bit on the arm. Before he can get back through the window of the truck, he gets bit yet again on the leg, sealing his fate. Back in the safe room, Fran is patching up Roger's bite wounds while Steven and Peter go to loot the gun store. Inside the gun store, the music track Safari acts as the backing for their escapades. Upon being kitted out to the teeth, the four of them, with Roger in the wheelbarrow, move to clear out the mall of all zombies and lock the main entrances. They fight their way back to the hardware store from earlier and decide that if they can hotwire one of the show cars in the mall, they'll be able to get the job done easier. Roger and Peter make a run for it. Or, well, one of them does, I guess. Being backed by the track zombie once again, Peter, Roger, and Steven all make it to the car, but as Roger is crawling through the back to start it, a zombie grabs his leg and digs her fingers right into his bite wound. Geez, better hope she washed her hands. Roger hotwires the car, and the three of them are able to get away and lock the doors. Upon securing the mall and killing all the zombies, we get these amazing shots showing the mall with its carnage everywhere, backed by La Alba de Morti Vivente. We then skip a few days, where Peter and Steven decide to build a wall to completely cover the entrance to the stairwell. Roger's condition is also visibly getting worse, with Fran acting as his nurse. Peter and Steven begin building their wall, while Fran suffers nausea as a result of her pregnancy. We get a montage of them cleaning up the dead bodies in the mall with a new track Oblio played overhead. A very somber tune to fit such a somber task. For some reason though, they decide to store the dead bodies in the freezer right next to all their frozen foods. That has to be some sort of a health code violation. After Oblio ends, another track we haven't heard before starts. That track being titled Supermarket. This begins playing as we get a hilarious scene of Steven and Peter stealing money from a bank and posing for their mugshots. We then get a montage of the four of them going around and living their best lives in the place that they now find themselves. Shopping, ice skating, getting haircuts. Man, now I kind of want to live there. Arcade games? Alright, they've got it too nice. As the gang overlooks the mall and revels in their accomplishment, La Alba de Morti Viventi plays again to signify how monumental of a task they had just completed. Peter then proceeds to deliver the greatest speech in horror movie history.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
The track swells in volume at the delivery of this line, and we get to see shots of the dead clambering against the door to show that hell is indeed full. We cut back to the safe room where we see Roger is coming to an end. They shoot him up with some morphine, but everyone knows he won't make it much longer. Peter stays with Roger, but in the end, Roger ends up just like anybody else who gets bit. They have a funeral for him and bury him in the mall. Down to just the three of them, Fran and Steven have a dinner date where Peter brings them their wine. A new track is played over this date, rightfully titled Sexy. Steven attempts to propose to Fran, but she shoots him down, saying they can't get married in a world like this. She doesn't want your lousy ass, Steven. We now jump a couple of months into the future, with Fran being visibly pregnant now. This jump also brings along yet another new track being titled Risveglio, calm and quiet compared to the other action-packed tracks in this movie, symbolizing a time of peace. The safe room is no longer a safe room, but a safe studio apartment. Seriously, this place would cost $2,000 a month in LA. We see Peter playing the Sport of Kings on the roof, but when we pan down, we see that the zombies never left the outside of the mall. In fact, they seem to be gathering more. This revelation is once again accompanied by an alternate take of La Alba de Morti Vivente. During one of Fran's flying lessons, the helicopter is spotted by a group of bikers. That night, the bikers contact the gang over the radio to let them know that they're going in the mall one way or another. That night, the bikers suit up to their favorite track of the movie, Zaratozom, a heavy rock song that portrays their rough and brutal nature. Peter and Steven watch from the roof as this small army barrels towards the plate glass windows of the mall. With the bikers circling outside, Peter and Steven move as fast as they can to close the gates and lock them out. The bikers quickly find a way in through the loading docks, letting not just themselves, but the Walking Dead in with them. Peter tells Steven just to hide and let the bikers fight the dead, but Steven is dead set on not letting them take what they fought so hard to get. With Zaratozom starting back up, the bikers start looting the stores, forcing Steven to hide. The bikers take everything they can, from clothes to candy, and even the jewelry right off the living zombies. That poor lady. In the middle of the chaos, the track switches briefly to Torte in Faccia, which in English translates to pies in the face. Just as soon as it came, it left, putting us back into the chaos with Zaratozom blasting once again. Seeing his chance, Steven starts shooting. The bikers start shooting back, and in the middle of this gunfight, one of the bikers sits down in the blood pressure machine. I'm sure that won't come back to bite him in the end. Peter tries to get Steven to just hide, but before he can really do anything, he's spotted by the bikers and they open fire. A biker named Blades falls off his bike and gets a gnarly kill with a machete. Fun fact about Blades is he's actually played by legendary effects artist Tom Savini. At this point, the utter chaos and carnage of the mall doesn't have any accompanying tracks and is silent beyond the yells and cries of the rampaging bikers. An aspect of this long scene that I really enjoy is that the screams of the bikers start to blend with the moans of the undead, blending the line of how both sides are bad. Steven takes this time to escape to an elevator and try to get back upstairs. Back in the main area of the mall, Peter is in a shootout with a group of bikers led by Blades. Peter is able to kill a few of them, but right as he does, the power goes out. Peter is able to make his way back to the air ducts without being caught and sealing off the only way in. With the power off, Steven is stuck in the elevator. He climbs on top to try and get into the air ducts when the power comes back on. That's convenient. Right as it does, the elevator goes back down to the first floor, and a couple of bikers file in. Not so convenient anymore. They take shots at Peter and nail him right in the arm. Blades meets his end when he's surrounded by zombies and shot by Peter from an air vent in the ceiling. Gone too soon, Mr. Savini. The bikers begin to retreat from the mall, but not before Peter is able to bring a few of them down. The remaining bikers in the mall all get eaten by the undead, and oh, hey, look at that! The guy in the blood pressure machine did get bit. Well, what do you know? I still, to this day, am amazed and disgusted by the work of Tom Savini on this movie. The gore is absurd and gross, but you've gotta love it. Steven, being shot in the arm, tries as hard as he can to lift himself back into the elevator shaft and to safety. But as he does, the elevator door opens and a horde of zombies shuffle in, eating away at his legs. Peter is just as heartbroken as we are. But my goat Flyboy isn't going down without a fight. Steven, who was bitten multiple times, is able to kill most of the zombies and still force the rest out back into the hallway. Back upstairs, Peter shows back up to the safe condo and tells Fran that Steven is out there and that he doesn't know if he's alive or not, when truly deep down, they both know that Steven is gone. Cutting back downstairs, we see the elevator surrounded by zombies. When one of them hits the elevator button, the doors swing open, revealing zombified Steven, one of the most iconic zombies of all time, alongside the main theme, L'Alba dei Morti Viventi. Steven, now being a zombie, leads the hordes to the false wall that blocks the staircase up to the safe mansion. Peter, realizing the situation they're in, tells Fran to get in the helicopter and leave him. He doesn't want to go because he's tired of losing his friends. Kinda a bummer. Right as Peter and Fran have this touching moment, Steven bursts in through the door, with Peter quickly putting him out of his misery. Peter pushes Fran out of the skylight as the dead pour into the safe castle. Peter sits in the bedroom, ready to shoot himself before the zombies are able to get him. The zombies break down the door, and just as we think Peter is going to shoot himself, Zaratozome starts again, and he shoots the zombie right in front of him. Peter decides that this isn't where he's going to die, and fights his way back to the rooftop. Fran, seeing Peter come out of the skylight, lands back down so he can get in, and the two of them fly off into the rising sun. Dawn of the Dead is an all-time classic and might just be my favorite horror movie of all time. But without further ado, let's get to the award ceremony. The award for most kills goes to the track Zombie, which plays at multiple pivotal points throughout the movie where both humans and zombies alike are killed. Honestly, I was surprised that Zaratozome wasn't the track with the highest kills. The fact that it played during the most intense scenes of the movie, Peter escaping from the safe mansion and with all of the bikers surrounding the mall, you would have thought there would have been more kills. Zombie takes the win with just brute force and the utter amount of times it was played. The track with the least amount of kills is a 5-way tie between Vado Vedo Isparo, La Cassia, Oblio, Supermarket, and Torte in Fascia. These 5 just didn't bring the fear, meaning if you find yourself in an abandoned mall and one of these 5 songs starts playing, you're probably going to be A-okay.